For 28 years, Mark and I had known each other, loved each other. But when I needed him most, he left me during surgery for someone else. When I gave him the divorce papers, he looked so sad, tears filling his eyes like a little boy. But Mark, I was the one who should have been crying the hardest. This trip was supposed to be for our fifth wedding anniversary. I had to make a big fuss at his office just to get him to agree to these 2 days away. Whenever I asked him at home, he'd just say he was too busy with work and ignore me. Honestly, if the love is gone, what's the point of celebrating an anniversary anyway? He probably thought I was silly for caring so much about it. That's why I went to his company and caused a scene. Mark was in the middle of a meeting when I walked in. His already serious face looked even more unhappy when our eyes met. The meeting stopped, and all the managers filed past me politely. Still, I could guess what they whispered once I couldn't hear. Sarah was always so sweet. Why is she acting so difficult these days? It's true, when you feel lonely in a marriage for a long time, you start doubting yourself and changing. Mark rubbed his head, looking tired and annoyed. "What is it?" he asked. Leaning on the doorframe, I smiled casually. "What do you think I'm here for? Our anniversary." Mark stared at me like he couldn't believe it, as if I'd lost my mind making a scene at his work over a simple anniversary. He pulled me into the meeting room and closed the glass door, probably hoping to keep the office gossip out. "What's gotten into you, Sarah? Sometimes I really want to open up your head and see what's going on inside," he said angrily, poking my forehead. It felt weird. When we were younger, I used to think it was funny when he'd get mad but couldn't really hurt me. Just poke my forehead like that. Back then, I'd grab his hand and pretend to bite it, watching him hop around swearing but unable to hit me. I found it cute then. But now, it just felt wrong. He felt wrong, inside and out. I pushed his hand away, disgusted. "Are you coming or not?" I said. "Mark, you know me. I don't give up easily. I have all the time in the world to wait for you." Seeing how calm and uncaring I was, his anger suddenly disappeared. He looked at me with disappointment for a second, then slumped onto the conference table, looking exhausted. "Sarah, how did you become so unreasonable?" he asked, sounding worn out. Watching him look so pained and stressed, like he was about to cry from the pressure I was putting on him, made me wonder why I'd become so unreasonable. "Maybe it's because I don't love you anymore, Mark, so I won't try to see things from your side or feel bad for you. I won't change myself to make things work. Because I don't love you, seeing you hurting like I have feels fair. Mark, a marriage needs two people. It can't just be me slowly falling apart in it alone. If you want out, I'll let you go, but freedom has a cost." On the morning we were supposed to leave for our trip, I was brushing my teeth and accidentally poked my gum too hard. It hurt sharply. As I stood there, gritting my teeth against the pain, I heard Mark talking on the phone in the bedroom. "After the anniversary, I'll come see you," he was saying gently. "Take care of yourself and the baby. If anything happens, call my mom or the doctor." His voice was soft and comforting, full of reassurance. It had been ages since he'd spoken to me that way. Our last real talk was just last night. I showed him the hotel I'd booked, and he just blew up again. He paced around the living room, trying hard to stay calm, but getting more and more agitated. Finally, he couldn't hold it in anymore and yelled at me. His eyes were furious, his face red, veins popping in his neck, like an angry animal trapped in a cage. "Sarah, why do you always think you're right? Sarah, can't you just be sensible for once? Sarah, the company is really busy right now. We can go on a trip anytime. Sarah, can't you stop being so difficult? I have work events I need to drink at. How else will the company do well?" Every sentence was an accusation, blaming me for everything wrong in our marriage. I just stared blankly at this angry man, his face twisted with rage. I thought hard, but I couldn't find a single reason left to love him. I used to love him so much, but now all I felt was disappointment. Thinking about that, the pain in my gums suddenly faded, replaced by a deep, aching hurt in my heart. I looked at myself in the mirror. My reflection looked worn out. Lately, I barely recognized the woman staring back. Sad, worried, like a flower slowly wilting, losing its youthful brightness, only showing the signs of decay that hinted at its past beauty. They say marriage kills love. I didn't believe it at first. Mark and I had been together for 28 years. From celebrating our first month together to taking our first steps. From getting little rewards in kindergarten to perfect scores in school. From receiving holiday money to getting scholarships. From struggling to start a business together to seeing the company succeed. We went from wearing school clothes to wedding clothes, from being young and unsure to being mature and steady. We had so many memories, more than we could count. I thought we had become completely intertwined, part of each other's lives. The Mark who used to adore me wouldn't want me to give up on love, right? The diamond ring on my finger was something Mark bought after he became successful. He stood before me, holding it out, his eyes shining with hope, promising me earnestly, "Sarah, I can finally give you a good life. I'll make you happy forever." But after only 5 years of wearing it, the sparkle was gone, just like our marriage was falling apart. When I came out of the bathroom, he looked startled for a moment and quickly ended his phone call, trying to act casual. When he finally looked at me, pretending nothing happened, his eyes were empty, like he didn't want to meet my gaze, quickly looking away. "Hurry up and pack," he said. "I'll make breakfast." After our fight last night, he had given in. I watched him moving around the kitchen, busy making food. I stood there for a long time, thinking about all the moments we'd shared. Just then, he turned and saw me watching him. He looked confused for a second, then started to scold me gently. "Sarah, are you planning some mischief again? I'm tired lately. I don't have the energy for games." I smiled at him, something I hadn't done much lately. "Mark, don't worry. This is the last time." It had been a while since we had a peaceful conversation. Seeing me like this, he froze, holding a bowl. Finally, a small smile, maybe a little bit forced, appeared on his face. "Sarah," he said, "I know I haven't been paying enough attention because of work, but once things calm down, it'll be better." I just smiled silently. But Mark, I thought, there's no better for us anymore. Mark had been out drinking with clients last night, so I was driving. We didn't speak the whole way. To Mark, our marriage probably felt like old chewing gum. It still had some taste, but the sweetness was gone and it felt like a waste to just spit it out. After all, the love we once had was real. I kept my eyes on the road, just wanting to get to where we were going. Our anniversary destination was the small town where Mark and I both grew up. It was a charming place, still looking old-fashioned, not rebuilt or ruined, and now a spot for tourists. A few years back, Mark had donated money to our old middle school. We even visited it on our honeymoon. We had promised to go back every year. Why? 1, it was beautiful there. 2, we had so many happy memories connected to it. 3, my parents were buried there. When memories become heavy, the person carrying them gets dragged down. Mark's phone rang in the car. He clearly hesitated. I glanced over and saw the caller ID. Chloe. With me right there, he couldn't answer. Worried about being caught, he got more agitated, silenced the phone, and shoved it roughly into his pocket. Soon it rang again. I had made sure everyone at his company knew we were going away for our anniversary. Even though Chloe was staying home, people at the office would talk. She had friends and spies there, waiting for her to climb the ladder using Mark. She felt like she had to make her move now. She was aiming at me, so of course I couldn't just let it go. That's why I made such a public scene about the trip. There were other ways I could have forced Mark to come. She couldn't resist calling, partly to remind Mark she existed and partly to challenge me. I smiled. "Aren't you going to get that? It keeps ringing." Mark silenced it again, looking annoyed but trying to act casual. "It's nothing important." Seeing him act so cool, maybe it really wasn't urgent to him, but just 2 weeks ago, a call from that same woman had sent him into a panic, leaving me alone at the hospital. That day, my stomach hurt terribly. The pain was so bad, I broke out in a cold sweat and nearly passed out. After Mark brought me to the hospital, he got a phone call before we even got the results of my tests. It was her. She had apparently almost lost her baby not long ago but was recovering, yet she felt anxious leaving Mark by himself for any length of time. Hearing her voice, Mark couldn't mask his worry. He left me with the medical staff and rushed out. Later, my results showed I needed surgery for appendicitis. Lying on the operating table, feeling that intense pain for the second time, staring up at the light fading above me, I had never felt so disgusted with myself. After we graduated, he said he wanted me to stay home and manage the house while he worked. So I gave up a good job offer and became a housewife, my world shrinking to just our family and him. I thought sacrificing everything for our home would make Mark appreciate and respect me. But what did I get in return? It was supposed to be our family, but somehow he became the only one working hard outside, while my efforts at home became invisible, just expected. Later, when we couldn't have children, I became the one to blame for Mark's family, completely pushed aside by him and his mother. So he secretly and shamelessly found another woman. My mother-in-law, who used to act like she loved me and sympathized with how I stuck by Mark through tough times, quickly helped him hide his affair, all because she wanted a grandchild. They thought I was clueless, but really they were the fools who knew nothing. So what does marriage really give a woman? Love, trust, loyalty, even a positive outlook on life? They destroyed my deepest beliefs, one by one, and then crushed the last bit of strength I had left. The phone call wasn't answered, and the silence in the car felt heavy and awkward. Mark nervously tried to start a conversation. I heard our old elementary school teacher has advanced stomach cancer. How could someone so healthy get sick like that? My heart jumped, and words came out before I could think. If I got cancer one day, Mark, would you stay with me? He frowned, barely hiding his irritation. Sarah, can't you go one day without causing drama? Why would you say something like that out of the blue? In the past, if I acted difficult, he would usually give in, looking patient but helpless. So whether a woman is causing drama really depends on if the man still loves her. I shrugged nonchalantly. Just joking. Why are you so tense? Mark seemed to realize he'd overreacted. He took a deep breath. Sarah, don't make jokes like that again. It's not funny. It seemed like maybe he still cared a little, but between us, besides a broken marriage, there was nothing left to fight over. Even if he found out everything I knew, for him, it would just mean a divorce. He wouldn't need to wish I was dead. Soon, Chloe called my phone. Ever since he started seeing her behind my back, I'd been getting challenges from her. Chloe was a young intern at the company, maybe early 20s, energetic and very pretty. The kind of woman that wives busy with everyday life worry about. But back then, I didn't think much of her. She added me as a contact, saying it was for work reasons. She claimed she'd heard Mark loved his wife very much and hoped I could help her out if she made a mistake at work. At first, I thought she was crazy. If she made a real work mistake, why would I defend her? I didn't know her. If every intern could just ask me for favors, the company would turn into a charity. It wasn't until I started seeing a familiar man showing up often in her social media posts that I understood what she was really after. But by then, it was too late. Or maybe I just hadn't known myself well enough, and I was too sure about Mark. I thought our 20-plus years together, the fact that I supported him from his struggling youth to his success, made me irreplaceable. But reality showed me otherwise. I wasn't irreplaceable. It was just that no one who could replace me had shown up before. When I answered the phone, I deliberately put it on speaker. Mark instantly looked uncomfortable and nervous, trying hard to hide it, but his anxiety was obvious. Sarah, I'm sick. I feel awful. Chloe's voice came through. I scoffed internally. Calling me when you're sick? Chloe pretended to sound worried. Sarah, I heard you and Mark are celebrating your anniversary. I hope I'm not bothering you. Even now I remember her face when she visited me in the hospital after causing my miscarriage. She was showing off photos from her birthday. Sarah, it was my birthday last night, she'd said smugly. Mark was with me the whole time. If you had just listened and gotten rid of the baby earlier, you wouldn't have needed my help. Mark's face, slightly blurry, was clearly visible in the picture. Last night. While I was lying on that cold operating table feeling empty as they took my child away, Mark was celebrating with his new love. Thinking about my poor lost baby filled me with rage. I had never hated those two as much as I did in that moment. Chloe kept apologizing pitifully on the phone, but before I could respond, Mark snatched the phone from my hand. If you know you're bothering us, then don't call. If you're sick, go to a doctor. If you're not, maybe get your head checked." He hung up abruptly. His reaction didn't surprise me. He was never someone to mess with. That's how he got to the top of his field so young, respected by everyone. Besides his mother and me, nobody could really make him back down, but now Chloe thought having his child gave her power. She didn't realize that looks fade, but youth always returns in someone else. Just like I gave my youth to Mark, it didn't stop him from leaving me once he was successful. If a man picks you for your youth, he'll eventually pick someone younger. "So can't she take care of herself?" I asked coolly. "She chose this path. She has to be ready for the consequences." Mark grew up next door to my family's old house. When I was a kid visiting my mother's hometown for holidays, I heard villagers talking about Mark's mother, Martha, and my own mom. They had been friends since childhood. After high school, my mom went to university, met my dad, a fellow student, married him, and moved away. They lost touch with Martha. The next time they met was when Martha, desperate, came looking for my mother. Martha grew up in a family that strongly preferred boys. After marrying and having a daughter, before Mark, her husband's family pressured her into an abortion. Later, her husband died over gambling debts, and Martha found out she was pregnant again. Determined to have her own child, but afraid of having another girl who would be mistreated by her in-laws, she ran away and found my mother. My parents, both doctors, felt it was their duty to help. Plus, my mom had known Martha forever and she was pregnant. Worried about my mother, my dad agreed to rent the old house where my grandparents used to live to Martha very cheaply. But the story of our childhood friendship wasn't quite right. I never liked Mark when we were young. It's common for single mothers and their children to be picked on. Over time, Mark developed a short temper, did poorly in school, and kept to himself, making him an outcast. He had no friends except maybe me, but I didn't enjoy playing with him. I disliked his rudeness, his aggression, his bad manners. He seemed angry at everyone. Even a small comment could make the sensitive boy defensive. Every time he fought, Martha would get involved. So I disliked him, and I disliked how he caused tension between my parents. Luckily, my dad loved my mom deeply, so those small arguments never broke them apart. Mark must have known I didn't like him. When he saw me walking to or from school, surrounded by friends, he'd always stay back, walking alone a little behind us. I knew he was waiting for me to invite him to join us, but I never did. This went on until junior high. It's not just kids from single-parent homes who are sensitive. Many people fear losing the little they have. One day, after my father had gone to school again to sort out a fight Mark was in, Mark actually told him, "Uncle, could you please stay out of our family's business? People are talking." People outside whispered that my father was getting too involved, but I knew it was partly my mother asking him and partly my father wanting to share her burden. Every family needs a strong figure, so outsiders don't bully women and children. That's the purpose of the differences between men and women. So we told people Martha was a distant relative of my father's. But over time, gossip started anyway. I knew the mean things people said hurt Mark's sensitive feelings. But if he hadn't given up on himself, why would he need my father to step in every time? What he needed was not to push away kindness like it was a burden, but to find ways to make that kindness worthwhile, to let others feel good about helping. That day, on the way home from school, I did something unusual. I stopped Mark. He looked surprised, maybe even a little hopeful. I grabbed his hair. "Mark, have you lost your mind fighting all the time? Who gave you permission to talk to my dad like that? He's genuinely trying to help you, worrying about you, and you treat his kindness like a problem? If you're so tough, why do you keep getting into trouble? You know, I could knock some sense into you." Truthfully, I was only 11 then, mostly just acting tough. Mark, at 13, was already stronger than his classmates. He was known for being distant, easily angered, and quick to fight with others, but with me, he'd only grumble and complain when I retaliated. After I hit him that day, my mom punished me. Later, while I was sitting outside nursing my sore behind, Mark awkwardly offered me 2 cheap candies. He said he hadn't told on me, but my mom saw the bruises on his face. "Next time, don't hit my face," he mumbled. The bruises were clear on his young face, but the effort to please me was even clearer in his eyes. I remembered what my mom told me after she disciplined me. Sarah, I don't want you to be so kind that you can't tell right from wrong. But I also don't want you to compromise who you are just to deal with Mark. You don't have to like him or pay attention to him, but you must never bully anyone. That's all I ask. Squatting there, I thought hard. Maybe I didn't truly dislike Mark. I just couldn't stand how he hid behind anger and self pity, pushing away any kindness offered to him. Mark, I said, if you become the top student in our class and stop fighting, I won't hit your face anymore. Mark, squatting opposite me, looked stunned. He stared at me intensely, then carefully unwrapped a sticky, almost melted candy and offered it to me. Okay, he whispered earnestly. Then, hesitantly, he asked, if I get the top score, can I walk with you to school? I popped the candy in my mouth and playfully tapped the back of his head. Don't get ahead of yourself, and this candy isn't good, it's too sweet. I took the other candy and put it in his mouth. Even with one side of his face swollen, Mark's awkward smile couldn't hide how good-looking he was becoming. Sarah, when the holidays come, I'll buy you chocolate, he promised. I told him chocolates were too expensive and I'd buy my own. During the holidays, I scolded him for even thinking about it. But he still gave me a piece of chocolate he'd bought with his own saved money. Money his mom had saved from gifts people gave them. Martha and Mark were both very careful with money, believing every penny should be used wisely. So that chocolate was a huge luxury for him. Even though his faded clothes didn't match what other kids wore, the bright sparkle in his eyes made him look attractive. Yes, this was how teenagers should be, full of life, passion, and hope. Mark, you have to come back. It's for your own good, Martha said firmly on the phone before hanging up abruptly. Mark sighed deeply, then looked at me, trying to look pleasant. Before he could speak, I cut him off. I'm not stopping the car. His smile vanished. What do you mean? Exactly what I said, I replied impatiently. You can either jump out now or come back to our hometown with me. Knowing I wouldn't change my mind, he tried reasoning. Sarah, you know my mom. She must have a serious reason for calling me back. Let's just go see her first. I promise I'll make up the anniversary trip to you. I couldn't believe he could lie so shamelessly right to my face. But honestly, I didn't care about the anniversary itself anymore. Mark, think carefully. If you bail on our anniversary this time, there won't be a next time. Mark looked furious. Are you just trying to pick a fight for no reason? I hated when he used that phrase, picking a fight. Is that what this is? Picking a fight? Your family certainly loves getting involved in things, don't they? Mark actually laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Sarah, let me be clear. If you have a problem with me, tell me. Don't take it out on my mom. His words made me laugh. Exactly. She's your mom, not mine. If she upsets me, I can put up with it once or twice, but do I have to deal with it forever? Do you and your family think I owe you something? Just because you benefited from my family in the past, does that mean I'm forever indebted to you? Mark, being sensitive about his past, hated reminders of his struggles now that he was successful. He hated thinking about his past failures and the judgment he faced. Sarah, do you have to start an argument just to feel okay? I remembered the first big fight Mark and I had. It was about having children. Without even asking what happened, Mark stormed in and started blaming me. My mom's attitude was wrong, but she's older than us. You can't talk to her like that. I shot back. What did I say to her? When she was blaming me for not having kids, I got upset and said, is it my fault we don't have children? Did you ever think maybe it's Mark's issue? After years of trying different treatments, taking awful medicine, suffering through daily pills, they should have understood better than anyone. Between the physical and emotional pain, I just couldn't take it anymore. But Mark didn't see that. Sarah, you're becoming impossible, he had yelled. Worn down by years of this, I finally broke down crying. Mark, you never think about how I feel. I've tried harder than any of you to have a child. What do you do besides blame me, especially you? You never try to see things from my perspective. Mark had paused then, apologizing remorsefully. Sarah, I'm sorry. My mom has been driving me crazy. I shouldn't have taken it out on you. He seemed sincere, and I thought maybe things would change. Later, I found out that while I was home making dinner and waiting for him, He was out dining at fancy restaurants with Chloe. While I was so sick from the fertility drugs that I was vomiting uncontrollably, feeling weak and like I couldn't breathe, a feeling no one could understand. He was at the hospital with Chloe for her pregnancy checkups. Thinking back on all that now, I didn't even want to talk to him. Do you think threatening me with my dead parents will work? Fine. Think whatever you want. You can't use my parents against me. If we could have had a child, things wouldn't be like this. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Mark, the living have no control over you, so how could the dead possibly threaten you? Besides, you and I will never have a child. Never. Even now, I vividly remember the day I came home, excited, holding a positive pregnancy test, only to have my hopes crushed by Mark and his mother. Martha had been pushing me to the brink, blaming me for not providing a grandchild, calling it disrespectful to the family. But then I got pregnant. I came home with the test, subtly asking if they'd prefer a boy or a girl. Martha was cooking chicken soup, adding herbs meant to help with fertility, and coldly said, "Get rid of it if it's a girl, it has to be a boy." The joy I felt vanished instantly. I stood there, frozen, looking to Mark for support, my last hope. But he just patted my shoulder. "Sarah, listen to Mom." At that moment, maybe the baby inside me sensed the rejection from its own bloodline. A wave of nausea hit me, and I ran to the bathroom, vomiting until I felt completely weak. Martha came running, excited. "Sarah, are you pregnant?" I smiled sadly. "I feel sick whenever I smell that medicine." "You already knew that, didn't you?" How could I possibly tell them I was pregnant then? She went back to the kitchen, disappointed, adding more herbs to the soup. I touched my stomach, feeling utterly alone for the second time since my parents died. At first, I naively hoped that once the baby grew bigger, they would accept it, boy or girl. Surely Mark wouldn't be indifferent to his own child. But then came the day I miscarried and ended up in the hospital. Chloe's appearance there shattered my illusions. Mark had been cheating on me even while I was desperately trying to conceive. So, of course, he wouldn't care about the baby in my belly. While I was breaking down mentally and emotionally, my wonderful husband and mother-in-law were busy taking care of another woman. Looking at Mark's grim face in the car now, I felt a small sense of dark satisfaction. My child was gone. How could they expect to live happily ever after? "Mark, you and your mother are truly cut from the same selfish cloth." Mark, furious and sputtering, pointed at me. I think you're crazy. Stop the car. I said stop." He was so angry he actually lunged for the steering wheel. Waking up from darkness, I could see the car's smoking front through the cracked windshield. The word accident flashed in my mind. I turned my head. Mark was unconscious in the passenger seat, held tight by the seatbelt. His body was slumped towards me, his arms slightly positioned as if to shield me. I pushed his hands away, yelled his name repeatedly, but he didn't respond. We were on a deserted road, pitch black outside. The car's headlights were broken, flickering, barely lighting up the splintered tree trunk we'd hit. Far off, I could see faint twinkling lights, hazy and distant, seeming to appear and disappear. A wave of helplessness washed over me, a lonely feeling, like I was the only person left in the world, waiting to die alone. But I wasn't ready to give up. The person who deserved to die most hadn't died yet. How could I accept dying like this? Before long, Mark woke up. In his desperate rush to get back to his mistress, he had actually grabbed the wheel while I was driving. Such a reckless, stupid thing to do. I didn't want to argue with him about it again. I got out of the car. Mark, wincing in pain, limped towards me, holding his right leg. "Sarah, are you okay?" he asked, his voice strained. "Thanks to you, we nearly died," I snapped back. Realizing it was his fault, Mark fell silent. He limped behind me as I started walking towards the distant lights. "Sarah, I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I acted too fast back there. I'm just glad you're okay." His stupidity had ruined all my plans. I stopped walking, annoyed. Thinking I had stopped to wait for him, a flicker of hope crossed Mark's face. But when he saw my cold, impatient expression, He looked completely taken aback. Mark, I said flatly, you've hurt me in so many ways. Stop pretending to care about me now. It's disgusting. Hearing this, Mark's already pale face went even whiter. Then anger flared up. Yes, it was my fault just now. But are you completely innocent? How did we end up like this, Sarah? Why do you always have to do things your own way, never thinking about how I feel? I'm stuck between you and my mom. Do you have any idea how hard that is for me? Do you know how much pressure I've been under all these years? His words hit me and my blood ran cold, then hot with fury. How could Mark cheat on me and then dare to blame me so confidently? Shaking, I walked up to him and slapped him hard across the face. I always do things my way? Who listened to you and turned down a chance to study overseas? Who quit a high-paying job to take care of you and your mother, to support your business? Anyone else can criticize me that they don't matter, they don't know anything. But you know, Mark, we've known each other 28 years. You know exactly what I gave up for this family. How can you be so shameless? The more I yelled, the more I realized how twisted we had become in each other's eyes. He was Wu-Yi, Kitanai, dirty, filthy, and I had become hateful. Mark, how dare you take everything I did for granted and still look at me with that disgusted face? Who do you think you are? Sarah. Mark realized he'd said the wrong thing and reached out looking guilty. I pushed his hand away forcefully and stepped back, heartbroken. Stay away from me! You're dirty! Just thinking about you touching other women makes me sick. This man I once loved so deeply could hurt me like this and still act innocent? It was truly repulsive. Mark didn't seem to grasp the full meaning of my words. He quickly tried to brush imaginary dust off himself. Sarah, I didn't mean what I said just now. You know I didn't. Can we please stop fighting? Let's just find the way quickly and go back to our hometown for our anniversary. Go back with me? Who are you doing a favor for? Is our anniversary only important to me? I demanded. Mark, do you seriously think I care about this worthless anniversary anymore? Sarah, can we just stop fighting? He pleaded. Look at the situation we're in. At some point, Mark stopped trying to soothe me like he used to. When he couldn't get his way with me, he'd quickly turn angry. Who gave him the right? It seemed like as his company got bigger and people started calling him boss, he stopped being just Mark. He became a puppet controlled by his desires, losing himself along the way. Looking him up and down, I suddenly felt like laughing. Mark, look closely. You're the one who's hurt right now. If I were to walk away and leave you here, you probably wouldn't survive the night alone on this road. As for myself, I hadn't intended to come back from this trip alive anyway. I had planned for both of us to meet our end during this anniversary getaway. It almost felt like fate understood what I wanted, causing this crash. Mark, maybe we should just end it here together? Dying in a car accident seems less planned than taking our own lives. Mark stared at me, shocked, unable to believe such hateful words could come from me. Sarah, are you out of your mind? I laughed silently, tears already streaming down my cheeks. Yes, I went crazy the moment I found out Chloe was pregnant with your child. When Chloe's baby was almost a month along, mine was just 3 months. I was constantly terrified that Mark and his mother would find out about my pregnancy. The stress made me emotionally unstable and caused health problems. Thankfully, my baby was strong and every checkup showed things were normal. One day, at the hospital for a checkup, I ran into Chloe, who was also pregnant. It felt like a cruel joke. Chloe, protected by the man who was supposed to be my husband and the woman who was supposed to be my mother-in-law, was being cared for so well. Meanwhile, I, the legal wife, felt like a secret mistress hiding in the shadows. When our eyes met, Chloe gave me a challenging smile. My already fragile emotions couldn't handle it. That day, I went into premature labor and had to be admitted to the hospital. When Chloe came into my hospital room, the doctor thought she was a relative and reminded her to be considerate of my emotional state. Chloe's face filled with scorn, a look that still haunts me. Sarah, she sneered, you're just Mark's plain wife. I know he's successful now and can't risk the bad publicity of leaving his wife after getting rich. So I don't care about being his official wife. If you don't mind sharing, then go ahead. Live out your days in that lonely house. But remember, life is long. Be smart. Don't keep this child. Ask for a divorce. You two built everything together. You'll get a lot of money. It's better for everyone. For a brief second, the thought of divorce crossed my mind. Just let them go. Let myself go. But it passed quickly. I couldn't let go. Help Mark become successful just so he could enjoy his wealth with other women? No way. I loved him, but I wasn't stupid. If they could treat me like this, I couldn't just let them off easy. Back when my parents were alive, I was fearless and confident, always myself, because I knew I had their unconditional love. They gave me the strength to face anything. But then I became Mark's supporter, got lost in household chores, lost myself, and turned into the suspicious wife constantly worrying about her husband cheating. If my parents were still alive, would they regret helping Martha all those years ago? I had to make Mark and Chloe pay just so I could live with myself. I pulled myself together and started getting involved in the company again. Changing yourself takes time, but thankfully the baby inside me gave me the strength to push forward. Apart from the emotional turmoil during early pregnancy, I felt physically fine once I regained my focus. While other pregnant women felt sick all the time, my baby seemed considerate. My only symptom was a bigger appetite. It took me 3 months to learn the business ropes and establish myself in the company, earning respect from partners. But in Mark's eyes, I was still flawed. When I worked, he complained I didn't take care of the family enough. When I quit to be a housewife and managed everything perfectly, he blamed me for not having children and causing friction with Martha. Now that I was working again, he still felt I wasn't caring for them properly. People are never satisfied, but it didn't matter to me anymore. Just when I thought things were finally going my way, reality hit hard. I managed to hide my pregnancy from Mark, blaming my weight gain on work stress, but I couldn't hide from Chloe's spite. During a company party, I slipped and fell in the hotel bathroom. Someone frantically called for an ambulance, but Chloe showed up instead. She smashed my phone, looked down at me like I was worthless, and said coldly, "Sarah, I told you to get rid of the child. Being a single mother won't do you any good. The company belongs to Mark. You won't get half. If you don't agree to a divorce quietly, next time it won't be just a little trick like this." Waking up in the hospital, Chloe showed me that picture of Mark with a birthday cake. "Sarah, it was my birthday last night. Mark was with me the whole time. If you had just listened and gotten rid of the child earlier, you wouldn't need my help now." With the baby gone, she implied, I could finally leave Mark for good. Touching my now flat stomach, I realized with despair that all my plans had been wrong. I thought working hard, securing my position in the company, and building confidence to leave Mark was the right path. But from the beginning, I should have just dealt with these horrible people directly. Maybe then my child wouldn't have died. Maybe then I wouldn't feel like I had nothing left connecting me to this world. Looking into Mark's eyes now, filled with determination, I tried to make him understand that he was the cause of all this pain. My plan had been simple. Take Mark back to the town where he grew up on our anniversary and leave him there forever. As for me, I would die in my childhood home. I knew my parents would disapprove, but I truly couldn't go on. And Chloe? My lawyer would release the proof of Mark's affair with her after my death. It might not ruin someone like Chloe, but how could her child live happily when mine couldn't? Mark's voice trembled. "Since when did you know?" "Does it matter anymore?" I shouted, losing control. "Mark, I regret ever helping you. I should have left you to struggle in the dirt where you belonged. Neither you nor your mother deserve anyone's kindness." Usually, mentioning Martha was a sensitive topic for Mark. He froze, looking utterly devastated. Then he started telling me about Chloe, blaming alcohol, but I knew it was just an excuse. "I didn't want things to happen this way," he mumbled, "but my mom pressured me. She was obsessed with having a grandchild. Even though she went through similar pain herself, she wouldn't let go of me or herself." He continued, pleading, "Sarah, my mom raised me alone. She faced so much prejudice when she was young, worked so hard, and all she wants now is a grandchild. Being stuck between you and her for years, it's driving me crazy. If we just give her this child, I promise, we won't let her control us anymore. We can have a good life together. I'll make everything up to you. I couldn't help but scoff. A future? Mark, there's no future for us. Mark stumbled back, panicked, a pained smile on his face. Sarah, what are you saying? I sighed. Don't worry, I won't let you die out here. At least, I won't kill you. If I have to die, I'd rather be near my parents, not with you. Based on our journey, we couldn't be far from my hometown. But after walking for a while, the road still looked unfamiliar. As we kept walking, I felt increasingly anxious. Mark followed cautiously, trying to comfort me but also scared of making me angry again, acting very subdued. The silence was broken when a child appeared. The child, maybe 5 or 6 years old, had very fine features, making it hard to tell if it was a boy or a girl when quiet. Before I could ask, the child pointed towards a direction. We pushed through some bushes and a small path appeared. The child took my hand. Looking down at him, I felt a strange sense of warmth. We walked for some time, the path looking the same. Mark, surprisingly patient now, spoke gently to the child. Hey kid, do you want Uncle to carry you? It was clear Mark liked the child too. But the child frowned, pulled away from Mark's offered hand, and looked up at me with longing eyes. I smiled and picked the child up. Suddenly, a wave of sadness hit me. If Mark and I had had a child, they would be around this age now. Thinking of my lost baby, tears welled up. The child seemed to sense my sadness and reached out a chubby little hand to touch my face. At that moment, I couldn't stop crying. During my pregnancy, I had initially hoped having a child would keep Mark with me. But after seeing his and Martha's true colors, I just wanted someone in the world connected to me by blood. Deep down, I was being selfish too. After losing my parents and being abandoned by the man I loved, I desperately longed for this child. I imagined our future life together countless times. If I left Mark, I'd dedicate my life to the child. We'd be the closest people bound by blood, the most important people in each other's lives besides my parents. I wouldn't be alone anymore. But then, I lost my child. Mark didn't understand why I was suddenly crying. He reached out, wanting to wipe away my tears. Sarah, we'll find our way out. If not, I'll protect you. Just please, don't cry. Disgusted, I turned my head away. His hand dropped and he looked sad as he pulled it back. After a long silence, the child suddenly spoke. Uncle, which path will you choose? Only then did I realize there was a fork in the road ahead. Mark hesitated, looked at me, then said, whichever way you go, I'll take the other one. The child, sounding strangely mature, said, Uncle, you can't walk the same path. Why? Mark started to ask, but I cut him off. I choose this one, I said firmly. Seeing my determination, Mark looked at me with complex emotions for a moment, then said nothing more. In the end, Mark and I took separate paths. Before we parted, Mark looked at me reluctantly. Sarah, if I find help, I'll come back for you. Whatever you decide. Once you're safe, I understand. It's my fault. Mark's promises meant nothing to me now. I didn't pay attention. Holding the child, I walked on. After what felt like a long time, the child spoke again. Did you know? Children choose their mothers from heaven. They look very hard for someone they like. Once they choose, they don't give up, no matter what difficulties they face, because they love that mother. My voice thick with tears, I asked, Sweetheart, how do you know that? The child's eyes were incredibly clear, like they held scattered starlight. She gave me a bright smile and said innocently, Because I chose a mother too. I looked for a very long time and faced many problems, but I'm not scared, because I know she loves me very much. She went through a lot of pain just to meet me. So, before I am born, I hope my mother is happy. I'm looking forward to meeting her. Just before I lost consciousness, the child touched my face again and whispered, Mom, be happy. I only had minor injuries from the car accident. 3 months later, when I woke up, Mark was still in intensive care with little hope of full recovery. Martha was harsh, blaming me for Mark's condition. But wasn't she really the one responsible? The police checked the dashcam footage, which clearly showed Mark grabbing the wheel, causing the crash. The first thing I did after waking up was deal with the chaos at the company, working with the other shareholders. After all, if the company failed, my shares would be worthless. Mark's accident was unexpected and he had no will. As his legal wife, if Mark died, his shares would automatically come to me. The other shareholders were trying hard to get on my good side. That's when Chloe reappeared. With Mark in the hospital and me taking charge of the company, Martha's life became very difficult. Her son needed expensive care, leaving her no time for anything else. Chloe, desperate to regain her luxurious lifestyle, couldn't wait any longer. I had been waiting for this moment during my 3 months of recovery. Chloe looked terrible. Her cheeks were hollowed, her eyes full of sorrow. She looked like she'd aged 10 years. She was completely different from the smug woman who had watched me suffer. She knelt before me, begging for forgiveness. "Sarah, I know I wronged you, but I was a victim too. Martha promised me lots of money if I had the baby. If my child wasn't the only option, I would have been useless to them. If I had an unexpected pregnancy, my life would be ruined." I found her words laughable. "You're innocent. Chloe, did they force you into bed with Mark? When you deliberately caused my miscarriage, did you ever think about how innocent my child was? The only reason I didn't do anything about the baby in your belly was because I wanted to earn some good karma for my own lost child." One was the mistress, pregnant and fighting over money. The other was the wife who had built everything with her husband, only to find out he cheated after his accident. Morally and legally, I had the advantage. I sold the story to the newspapers, then my lawyer used the evidence I had gathered to file for divorce. Martha seemed clueless about how serious things were. She still thought I was the lovesick fool completely devoted to Mark. She believed that as long as she didn't agree to the divorce, Chloe wouldn't care if Mark remained incapacitated, but I would never abandon him. So even when Chloe threatened her using the child, Martha refused the divorce until I started making moves with Mark's company shares. The media pressure became too much for Martha. She worried about the scandal, about her son waking up to a ruined reputation, and about the company's future. In the end, she had to agree. The divorce went through smoothly. I sold off the shares I received from Mark. This time, I truly let go. He meant nothing to me anymore. In the second month after the divorce, Mark woke up. The accident seemed to have caused amnesia. He claimed to have forgotten the affair. He played the role of a poor victim, a man injured in an accident and then abandoned by his wife. Human memory is amazing at creating lies to make oneself look better. He wanted to live in that lie, but I wouldn't let him. Seeing Mark in the hospital, pretending not to be shocked, was hard. I knew he'd been bedridden for months and wouldn't look well, but seeing him in person was still jarring. In just a few months, Mark had shrunk dramatically, looking almost unrecognizable. His hair was white, making him look old and frail, confused and low-spirited. But when he saw me at the door, he hesitated, then instinctively hid behind Martha, his voice hoarse and trembling. "Sarah, don't look at me. Please don't look." He seemed aware of how bad he looked and couldn't meet my eyes. Seeing her precious son upset by my presence, Martha flew into a rage, pointing at me. "How dare you show your face here? You wanted a divorce, so stay away. If anything happens to my son because of you, I'll make you pay." I didn't want to be there either, but there was something I needed to say, something they had to know. Past Martha, I could see a thin hand on the hospital bed trembling. He was clutching the blanket tightly, using all his strength to control himself, but I didn't care. "Chloe's child is gone," I stated calmly. Mark's reaction was minimal. In fact, when I said it, the trembling hand surprisingly stilled. Martha exploded. "If it weren't for you, how could Chloe have used the child to threaten me? How could she have accidentally lost the baby? It's all your fault, all because of you." I smiled faintly. "I also heard that you pushed Chloe, causing her to fall and miscarry. It resulted in severe bleeding. She needed a hysterectomy, and now you have to pay her a lot of money." Martha's face went deathly pale. "I will never give her that money." I shook my head, looking directly at Martha. "That's not what I came here to talk about today. There's something else I need to tell you. It might not matter to you now, since Chloe won't be giving you an heir. Maybe someone else will in the future." Suddenly Mark spoke, his voice raspy. "Sarah, There won't be anyone else. I won't. Absolutely not. It doesn't matter, Mark. Your decisions don't concern me, I replied coolly. I'm just here to tell you both something. We had a child together, but when he was almost 7 months along, his father was too busy celebrating with another woman and missed the chance to ever know him. I turned to the stunned Martha. Your first grandchild, I added, was killed by Chloe. Seeing Martha's face turn even whiter, I knew Chloe wouldn't get a penny of that compensation money, especially with Mark's lawyers involved. That was one reason I came. Finally, Mark gathered the courage to peek out from behind his mother. His cracked lips trembled as he spoke in despair. Sarah, what you said, it's not true, right? I know you hate me, but what you just said, it can't be true, can it? My eyes welled up slightly. Unfortunately, Mark, while you were eagerly waiting for another child, my child decided he didn't want you anymore. That was all I needed to say. Anything else they wanted to know would eventually come out. It just needed time. Mark started coughing violently, his chest heaving as if he were trying to cough up his lungs. He ended up spitting out a mouthful of blood, his face completely drained of color. Martha, barely recovering from the shock about her grandson, became hysterical and rushed out to find a doctor. I stood there like an outsider, watching the once vibrant young man now looking like he was dying. Mark, I thought, I actually didn't want you to die in that car accident. Waking up after the crash, I realized death is too easy. The person who did wrong dies, and it's like their sins are wiped clean. But no one thinks about how long the victim's wounds take to heal. So, when I heard you woke up with amnesia, I was actually glad. It doesn't matter if you feel sorry or want to make amends after losing your memory. One thing is certain, what happened will haunt you for a very long time. To me, that's the real punishment. Death would have been letting you off too easy. You have to pay for what you did. Mark, I whispered silently, I initially wanted you to grow old alone, living forever with regret. But then I realized that wasn't realistic. So now, I only have one wish for you. In this lifetime, let's never cross paths again. Because, Mark, I have seen the light again. I've decided to try and forgive myself and forgive you. Life is long. From now on, all I want is to be happy and live my life well. After getting out of the hospital, the first thing Mark did was fire all the employees at the company who were close to Chloe. He knew Sarah wouldn't care even if she found out, but he punished himself anyway, trying to find some way to make up for his mistakes. The amnesia was just a convenient lie. He thought by pretending nothing had happened, he could leave the hospital and somehow approach Sarah again. He could apologize, try to earn forgiveness, hiding behind the mask of memory loss to ease his guilt. But before he left the hospital, Sarah gave him her final message. Seeing her cold, determined figure walking away from his room left an ache in his heart that would stay with him for years, haunting his sleepless nights. He worked hard at his recovery, only to find that Sarah had already blocked him completely, vanishing from his life. At that moment, his life felt empty, meaningless. He knew from the start that Chloe had approached him with ulterior motives. He didn't love her. In fact, he disliked the woman his mother had practically forced on him. So why did he give in? Getting drunk was just an excuse. He was desperate for an escape, a way to release his pent-up frustrations. He admitted to himself he wasn't a good person. Growing up poor with a single mother, he faced constant judgment. Childhood fights were blamed on him not having a father. If something went missing at school, he was suspected because he was poor. Even the money his mother earned from working multiple jobs was viewed suspiciously. Growing up surrounded by negativity, how could he remain untouched? He learned to assume the worst about people's intentions, to strike first to avoid being hurt. But with Sarah, he always wanted to be honest, clear-hearted. She might have seemed cool towards him on the surface, but she would secretly stand up for him. If Mark was the tough weed, surviving against the odds, Sarah was the cherished flower grown with love. When he finally got the chance to be close to her, he wanted to amplify the innocent part of himself. He was willing to be whatever Sarah liked, clean, positive, cheerful. As long as it pleased her, he would change. But when did things start to go wrong? Maybe it was when he earned his first real money. The admiration from others fed his ego. Desire became a bottomless pit. His simple goal of earning enough to give Sarah and his mother a good life morphed into wanting more money, more status, wanting to escape the judgment he remembered. Eventually, as Mark gained more possessions, he lost the most important thing he ever wanted. He became more successful, but his relationship with Sarah worsened. Some people, climbing from poverty to wealth, constantly remember their struggles. Not Mark. The more successful he became, the more he hated thinking about his embarrassing past. His mother, however, seemed to enjoy reminding him of their poor days, using it to control him. "Mark, I worked so hard to raise you. Everything I do is for your own good." "Mark, your mom just wants a grandchild." In the early years of their marriage, she went from subtly hinting about children to openly pressuring Sarah with various remedies. Mark felt like he was losing his mind. He could see Sarah hated those remedies, but he was too weak to stand up to his mother. He could only watch Sarah suffer. He thought having a child would free them from his mother's control, allowing them to finally live the life they wanted. But reality proved him wrong, one bad decision after another. He couldn't admit his weakness, caught helplessly in the middle, arguing with Sarah again and again. To him, those arguments weren't serious enough to destroy their bond. If there was one thing he truly admired, it was Sarah's parents. No matter how difficult their relationship got sometimes, he envied the deep love between them. Their actions showed Mark that true, lasting love really existed. Even when they argued, they considered each other. Even when they died together in an accident, they never gave up on each other. He thought he and Sarah had that same kind of connection. Just get through the difficulty of having a child, he told himself, and he would never let Sarah suffer again. So, when he realized the anniversary trip meant visiting Sarah's parents' graves, he felt a deep sense of panic. He felt ashamed, knowing he couldn't face them. But when the accident happened, regret washed over him intensely. That's why he instinctively tried to shield Sarah with his body. While unconscious, he dreamed. In the dream, he and Sarah were lost. A child appeared and led them to a fork in the road. The child told him one path led back, but he and Sarah couldn't take the same one. Only later did he understand. It wasn't just a road. It led to a future where his life and Sarah's would never intersect again. The next time he saw Sarah was 2 years later by the sea. She wasn't the tired, numb woman he had been married to. She seemed to glow, radiating a gentle peacefulness that comes from happiness. As Mark watched the sea breeze play with her hair, he instinctively wanted to approach her, but he stopped himself. Soon, a man gently placed a shawl around her shoulders. He held her small frame tenderly in his arms, resting his chin lightly on her head, speaking with affection and mock exasperation. "It's windy here. Remember to dress warmly." Sarah replied playfully, "I know, I'll remember next time." The man wasn't strikingly handsome, but he looked neat and had a kind, intelligent air about him. Sarah gently touched her stomach. "Honey, do you think if it's a girl, she'll look like you?" The man chuckled. "Don't say that. Our son might get jealous." Then he leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Of course, in 2 more months, after our son is born, I'll work extra hard to try and give you a daughter." Sarah playfully grabbed his arm and pretended to bite it. "You always know how to tease me." The man let her bite, his eyes smiling. "When our son starts kindergarten, we can have a daughter. I'll protect Mom, and Big Brother will protect little sister. Wouldn't that be nice?" Sarah asked, "But what if it's another son?" "Even better," the man replied smoothly. "The 3 of us will protect you. But," he added, his voice softening, "I heard giving birth is very painful." He fell silent, his eyes showing genuine concern. "After this one, I'll get a vasectomy." Sarah laughed. "No daughter, then?" "No more," he said firmly. "You hate pain the most. After this baby, we won't have any more." Watching them walk away together, Mark felt a sharp pang in his chest. He covered his face and finally let out the tears he'd been holding back. He could have had that happiness. He saw Sarah again more than 30 years later. All those years, he had felt like someone secretly watching another person's life, witnessing all the big moments in Sarah's world from afar, never daring to reveal himself. He had known Sarah for 28 years. She had been part of every important event in his life. She was the light guiding him through the first half of his life, but tragically, he hadn't cherished that light. And so, after Sarah left, he felt stuck, living in a loop of the past, unable to move forward. Over the years, that other man had been very good to Sarah, so good, Mark had no excuse to interfere. She had been cared for well, aging gracefully, her spirit kept vibrant and lovely by the shield of her loved one's affection. "You promised to buy me ice cream after our walk," she pouted like a child, refusing to move from in front of a shop. The young man beside her turned to the elegant, gray-haired man with her, smiling helplessly. "Dad, can you handle Mom?" The man stepped forward, took her hand, and patted her head lovingly. "Sweetie, let's not eat it now. You might freeze your dentures." Sarah glared playfully, almost nipping at him. "Don't look down on my dentures." The sunset was stunning just then, bathing Sarah's face in a warm glow, making her look like she was surrounded by happy bubbles. Mark watched them, the happy family, his heart filled with a lifetime of regret.